The Arizona Wildcats beat the Stanford Cardinal. The final score, Arizona Wildcats 89 to the Stanford Cardinal 82. With the Arizona loss to Oregon State, unexpected loss to Oregon State, and then the rebound. The Arizona Wildcats rebound against Utah, the Utah Utes. Then I was kind of curious to see if the Arizona Wildcats were going to be able to keep that pace like they did against Utah. There was I think there was a big drop as far as the quality of the Arizona Wildcats played. Though I don't think they played as good as they did against Utah, but one of the big problems of the Arizona Wildcats is away games, games that are not at McHale, not in Tucson, Arizona. If the Arizona Wildcats have a game that's away, then that is one of their most difficult things. I mean, I said that rebounds were the Arizona Wildcats' Achilles heel, because if people blocked out some of the big men from the Arizona Wildcats, then who was going to be able to step up and get those rebounds? But another Achilles heel of the Arizona Wildcats seems to be away games. I don't remember. I don't think it was a very large percentage of the Arizona Wildcat fans that were at Maples Pavilion for Stanford. I think it was at Maples Pavilion. 6950 or 6940 was the total attendance. So I would probably say that maybe a third or maybe a fourth of the fan base was Arizona Wildcats. But anyway, the Arizona Wildcats don't really perform too great away. They haven't performed too great away whenever they're playing lately, like against Oregon State. That was away. That was an away game, and they didn't do too great that time. But then Oregon was also an away game, and they did really good on that game. But this game against Stanford Cardinal was an away game too, and the one against California will be an away game also. So it'll be interesting to see how the Arizona Wildcats do in that game. I think it's going to be on Saturday at 8:30 on Pac-12 Network, but against Cal. But Stanford was ranked. They weren't ranked actually, but they had 4 wins and 1 loss in the Pac-12 conference, and so Arizona Wildcats had 4 wins and 1 loss also in the Pac-12 conference. So it was kind of an even match, somewhat, as far as quality. Just lately in the Pac-12 conference. So, but the Arizona Wildcats did pretty good. The Arizona Wildcats had many players that got into foul trouble because the refs were they were kind of going crazy on the amount of fouls that they called on people. I mean, uh, the Arizona Wildcats had 23 fouls. There were 23 fouls called on the Arizona Wildcats, and 28 fouls were called on the Stanford Cardinal. But um, we had Brendan Ashley ended up with 4 personal fouls. We had Caleb Tarczewski ended up with 4 personal fouls. We had Dusan Restic, which fouled out of the game. So those are, three of your big players, post players that play inside the key for the Arizona Wildcats, and they were all somewhat in foul trouble. So it was interesting to see how they were going to be able to respond and play good defense, play really strong defense, and get a lot of rebounds inside if so many of their big men, Dusan Ristic, Tarczewski, and Ashley, were all in foul trouble. But they did pretty good. I mean, the Arizona Wildcats were out rebounded at when you look at the final stats, and the Arizona Wildcats were out rebounded. They had 25 total rebounds, while the Stanford Cardinal had 29 total rebounds. 7 offensive for the Arizona Wildcats, 7 offensive for the Stanford Cardinal. 2 of those offensive rebounds were from Brendan Ashley. 2 of those offensive rebounds were from Caleb Tarczewski, which is really good. That's 3 total rebounds for Caleb Tarczewski and 3 total rebounds for Brendan Ashley. It's just the foul trouble. So, those 2 guys, like I said, had 4 fouls. Each of them had 4 fouls. So it's kind of understandable that they didn't get a whole lot of rebounds, because it was so, the refs were so sensitive about fouls, and Bill Walton and Dave were the sportscasters of this game, and they were remarking about how close this game was being called, and Bill Walton was complaining because he said, well, let them just play the game, quit calling so many fouls. But so it was a lot of fouls that were being called, but I guess they wanted it to be a very tight game, or a very, very clean game. I mean, they even pulled, I think it was, they pulled Stanley Johnson away from one of the players for the Stanford Cardinal, and they weren't even really arguing. They were calling it so heavily that Sean Miller started to get pretty pissed off, and whenever Sean Miller, the coach for the Arizona Wildcats, started to get pretty pissed off, then they almost called him for a technical foul. And I can't remember the last time that Arizona was called for Sean Miller was called for a technical foul. But the Arizona Wildcats only had 10 turnovers compared to the Stanford Cardinal, which had 14 turnovers. There's a very, very small amount of assists for T.J. McConnell. T.J. McConnell had 13 assists. Had 5 assists. Sorry about that. Had 5 assists. He usually gets, I would say, 6 or 7 assists a game. So I shouldn't say he did very bad as far as the amount of assists, but he didn't get as many as he normally does. But he got 10 total points, and it wasn't so. And the thing about it was, what I saw in Utah, whenever the Arizona Wildcats played against Utah and beat Utah pretty handily, I think by 18 points or something around there. um, was there was a lot of individual play, and John Wooden, the guy that won all those national championships for the coach that won all those national championships, well, the coach of the team that won all those national championships, UCLA, was saying that we're getting away from team ball and playing more individual ball, and that's I think one of the big faults of the Arizona Wildcats is there's a little bit too much individual play, and sure they did fine against Utah because they just got a lot of talent, a lot of physical talent in Stanley Johnson and T.J. McConnell. They both of those guys stepped up quite well and scored, probably, I don't know, 30, 40, maybe 50% of the score of the points, but and get a lot of assists. But it, I think it's much more valuable to get team play going on, and so it's nice to see the Arizona Wildcats get a little bit more team play. Dribble penetrate, go in there, dribble penetrate into the key and kick it out, or draw a bunch of defenders on you and then pass it off to somebody that's open. And I wanted to see that more in the Arizona Wildcats, and I did. I did see that more, and you can see that there was a little bit more team play because the Arizona Wildcats were able to come out with a victory, even though they didn't rebound as good as they should, and they all had 25 rebounds compared to the Stanford Cardinal, which had 29. Jason Randall from the Stanford Cardinal was he the most points he had gotten in quite a while on other games against the Arizona Wildcats was like 12 or something like that. But tonight he did really, really good. He made every single one of his 10 free throws, and he ended up with 26 points total, which is fantastic. But that wasn't enough. Anthony Brown is the number two guy, so they're a nice duo. I think they're ranked as far as one of the best duos in the nation. Anthony Brown had 18 points for the Stanford Cardinal, so he did also very nicely. And the next one was Stefan Nastic, which had 10. But the Arizona Wildcats had 5 guys with double figures. I didn't see anybody that had a double-double. The most rebounds that anyone had was Stanley Johnson with 7 total rebounds. But we had Stanley Johnson with 19 total points, and Brendan Ashley with 17, and Rondé Hollis-Jefferson with 12, T.J. McConnell with 10, and let's see, Gabe York with 13. He knocked down a couple three-pointers, which was really cool, and so did Stanley Johnson. Stanley Johnson also knocked down a couple three-pointers. So anyway, that was really cool that the Arizona Wildcats were able to pull out with this victory and see how they're going to do against Cal on Saturday. So the Arizona Wildcats win this game. The final score: Arizona Wildcats 89 to the Stanford Cardinal 82.